Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of my team selector and preview ahead of the game tomorrow night against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. First leg of the last 16. Massive test for Chelsea. There's no denying this. I think we come into this game despite having the advantage of a second leg at home, despite having the advantage in this season of having a home tie in this competition. Atletico Madrid obviously don't because we're playing the first leg tomorrow in Bucharest. Just so strange currently. But this is massive for Chelsea, it really is. And I think we are underdogs. I think we are going into this game. I think the current form of Atletico Madrid, what they've done this season, but I also just think comparing the two sides in the Champions League since 2014, there's a massive gap in terms of a team that know how to get through knockout ties, who know how to get past the last 16, and that's Atletico Madrid. Chelsea have not got past the last 16 since 2014 when we got all the way to the semi-final against Atletico Madrid, against Diego Simeone, where they knocked us out over two legs. So it's going to be tough. It really is for Tuchel, and I think it's a first massive test for him. I mean, the last time he was in the Champions League, of course with PSG in the group stages where he got them through in the end, but also getting to the final 6 months ago. So you've brought in Tuchel to get Chelsea beyond this sort of last 16 hoodoo and get us back to a stage where, as a club mentally now, we need to stop treating the Champions League as something we need to get in each season and just to be a part of. And it's nice hearing the famous music and being on a Tuesday and Wednesday instead of a Thursday. We've got to move back to being a club that actually thinks and believes it can win this competition, because all the money we spend, all the talent we have in this squad, there's got to be improvement now. Now, I don't expect Tuchel to work miracles, but tactically, the mindset of this club, I think it needs to change once again in the Champions League and actually hurt teams when they come up against us. That hasn't been the case in recent years. Hopefully this year it may change, but it's going to be a massive test for Chelsea. But before we get into any of that good stuff, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also hit the like button if you're enjoying the content, because it helps out the channel as well. Thomas Tuchel in his press conference, unfortunately, the team news we didn't want to hear, the injury news we didn't want to hear, Thiago Silva still out for tomorrow, which is a massive loss. I mean, that was the hope, him not playing against Southampton, seeing him in training last week, there was some hope he could be ready for this game. It's a massive miss, it really is, because he is that one world-class defender we have in a game of this nature, where I feel personally it's going to be defined by fine margins, as most Champions League games are. It's about those key moments defensively, constant focus, danger awareness. That's what Thiago Silva brings, that composure, that awareness to be in the right place at the right time. And I think that's something that is going to be on the current Chelsea defence without Thiago Silva. To have that, do they have that nous, that intelligence, that mentality to step up when it's required against elite opposition? It's going to be tough, it really is. Let's hope Thiago Silva will be back for Man United, Everton, Liverpool. Got some big games in the Premier League coming up against teams in and around us that we need to pick up points from. So that's a disappointment, but Pulisic and Havertz are in the squad. So Pulisic recovering from Saturday and Kai Havertz will be in this squad. Let's see if he maybe can feature in this team, because we'll have to wait and see. But let's take a look at Atletico Madrid. Despite some rocky form recently, as you can see, lost to Levante at home at the weekend, but they were pretty dominant in that game, to be honest. First in the Liga, fully expected to go on and win that competition. Luis Suarez, top goal scorer this season, such a threatening player, as we know from the Premier League with Liverpool, but still such a deadly player in front of goal, and he's been a brilliant signing for them from the summer. And Diego Simeone, we know his experience. I've got so much respect for Simeone. I think he's a bit dismissed in his country. I think the reaction last season to the way he brilliantly deconstructed a very impressive Liverpool side over two legs, I think was demeaned as somehow it was luck. It wasn't luck. This is what Atletico do year in, year out, and I think that's why I have so much respect for Simeone as a coach, working at times under a limited budget, you know, having to sell key players over the years, but being able to reinvigorate the squad over and over again and having that longevity at Atletico Madrid. I mean, you see the differences between clubs. You know, this is the third time Diego Simeone has faced Chelsea in Champions League competition, and it's the third different head coach he'll face in a dugout against Chelsea as well. Firstly, it was Jose Mourinho, then it was Antonio Conte, now it's Thomas Tuchel. So certainty at that club, and Simeone has done wonders. He really has. They're expected to play this 3-4-2-1 formation, a bit like Chelsea, to be honest. It can vary from time to time, but we do know against Atletico Madrid, their game intelligence, their compactness defensively. I expect Chelsea to have a lot of the ball, and it's about those key details. And I look at Joao Felix and Luis Suarez, and also the battle in the middle of the park, Koke and Kondogbia. Can Chelsea win that midfield battle? I think that's going to be so key tomorrow night for Chelsea to get anything positive from the first leg. But my big concern, especially against a team like Atletico, is two things we saw on Saturday that worry me going into this game from a Chelsea perspective. Lack of clinical edge, because Chelsea are not going to get a lot of chances, most likely against Atletico Madrid, the way Simeone will set up. So can you be clinical enough in the final third? That's what Chelsea have lacked quite a while now, but that's concerning going into a two-legged tie where it's fine margins. Once again, I don't expect this to be like Bayern last year. I don't expect Atletico to come out and commit too many men forward. I might be surprised, but I don't think that's going to be the case. So it's going to be about those small margins, those details in both boxes that Chelsea need to get right if we want to progress to the quarterfinals for the first time since 2014. And as well, defensive lapses, which we saw on Saturday and we've seen over and over again from Chelsea this season. Can we rule out all those bad defensive lapses? Because it only takes one moment in the Champions League. It's a bit different to the Premier League. It takes one moment. Luis Suarez, Joao, Felix, they get a little bit of space, a little bit of time, and it can be game over. It can be really deadly, the Champions League, as Chelsea know all too well down the years. So that's something we need to look out for. But let's look at my predicted lineup for the game tomorrow night. As you can see here, Edouard Mendy as well. We're sticking to the same formation, the 3-4-2-1. I don't think Thomas Tuchel at this point is going to change that formation. I'd be really stunned going into a game of this nature. I think he'll just feel quite comfortable in this formation at the moment. I think we may even have to wait till next season to maybe switch to a back four again, maybe when we get new centre-backs in, or at least more recruitment, because at the moment I feel this back three may just be used, at least for the time being, because it has worked predominantly. Chelsea were unbeaten under Thomas Tuchel. But as you can see, Edouard Mendy in goal, Dave, Christensen and Rudiger. And here's the interesting thing about this back three. It's the same back three that started against Barcelona in the first leg of the Champions League tie in 2018. If you remember that game, Chelsea went 1-0 up through Willian, and then Andreas Christensen made that mistake and Lionel Messi scored the equaliser, and of course we were well beaten in the second leg. And for me, this is Christensen's biggest game as a Chelsea player. I think he really needs to step up now. I think it's now or never for Christensen. I've been saying this for a while now. I think if he wants to prove there's something more to his game and he can be a defender Chelsea can trust for the long term, as a young player who's developing and later on in his career he can be trusted in the biggest moments, it's now he needs to prove it, because it's been easy recently for Christensen in truth. We've come up against teams who haven't wanted a lot of the ball and don't really have that impetus or quality in attack. It's a lot different playing in the middle of a back three against Newcastle at home. They're playing against Atletico Madrid and Luis Suarez is there, and you feel the nous, the quality, the intelligence of Simeone will try and expose some of those weaknesses in key moments, and it only takes one moment. Chelsea may be good defensively on the night, but it could take one moment, and that's all it takes in the Champions League, the quality of teams you face, to kill you. And that's something that I think Christensen needs to be on his game, just the same as Dave, just the same as Rudiger. We'll have to see if he does start the back three, but I think if he does go with it once again, I think Christensen is better suited than Kurt Zouma in that role. Reece James, Kante, Kovacic, Ben Chilwell. I think Kante has to be in the starting 11 for me. I just feel those moments in transition, the intercepting, I want Kante in this team. I could understand having Jorginho if you feel we are going to have a lot of the ball, but I still feel Kante, the levels in his performance in that game on Saturday, the first half especially, I just don't know why you won't want Kante in this team. It's a player that is world class at times. His movement, his ability. There are no perfect solutions at the moment for me in central midfield for Chelsea. There really isn't. I think that you have to sort of be cautious. You have to be limited in times with what we have, because we don't have a natural DM to at least partner one of these players. I think all of them at times have flaws, but I think for a game of this magnitude, where those small moments where Kante can get his foot on the ball, can stop transitions happening, the quality of movement with someone like Joao Felix in between the lines, between midfield and defence, it's so dangerous and it's so key that Chelsea are alert, and I want Kante on this pitch. And I think Kovacic has done a lot recently to impress me, and I think it's that nice balance of having a player who can be defensive minded, but also having a progressive player from deep who can be press resistant at times. Even though Atletico will sit a lot deeper, and I think Chelsea will have a lot of the ball, you've still got to have players with that intelligence. And I think Jorginho, just that movement could potentially be exposed in a game like this, in my personal opinion. So I'm going to go with N'Golo Kante. Ben Chilwell, I think, in for Marcus Alonso, I felt had a terrible performance on Saturday at Southampton. Reece James at right wing back, but I think Callum Hudson-Odoi and Mason Mount as the roaming number 10s behind Olivier Giroud. So Callum Hudson-Odoi on that right side of Reece James. I really like the movement they had against Spurs. If you remember, that was the time where Callum didn't start as a right wing back, he started as a right winger, and the way that front three moved at the time. Of course, Timo Werner I'm not starting in this game, because I think it's going to be limited, the space for him. I don't think this is a game for him at the moment. I just think Chelsea will have a lot of the ball against a very compact Atletico Madrid. The space in behind for someone like Werner to expose, I don't think is going to be there. And I just think that Mason Mount, of course, has to be in this team. Once again, he's one of Chelsea's best players at the moment, and you want his energy, you want his creativity, his influence, because as we saw on Saturday, if he's not on that pitch, Chelsea are probably not getting a point. So Mason has to be in this team. And Callum, I think, difficult moment on Saturday, but let's hope he responds positively. And Tuchel very much was speaking about that in his press conference, saying that we had the training session yesterday and he was responding positively. So maybe Callum could start, and I'd actually like to see him start alongside Reece James in that right wing back role. Not only in terms of the relationship they have, but just a little bit more defensive protection, because I think that Callum at right wing back, it's going to be interesting to see if Tuchel persists with that against like Man United, because it's a little bit different once again with teams who can hurt you in transition. And despite Callum being good in defence of say tracking back, I still think I'd rather Reece James there, just that extra protection there for him. And Olivier Giroud up top now. Tammy could play this game, Timo could play this game, Kai could play as a false nine. I don't think there are any obvious solutions here, but in a game where Chelsea are not going to have tons of space, you need players who can play with their back to goal at times. And I think Olivier Giroud, his little knocks in behind, those brilliant chest down, you know, in terms of physicality, I think I'd rather have Olivier Giroud in a game like this. I just, once again, I can't see the space being there for Timo Werner. I can't see Diego Simeone, especially with injuries to key players in defence, just allowing loads of space. It's just not going to happen, especially for a player like Timo Werner. Olivier Giroud, I just think his intelligence, his ability to bring others into play, and given the fact that I don't think Atletico are going to be pressing up high enough to keep him offside, I think I'm going to give Olivier Giroud a chance to start this game. But that is my starting lineup and preview. Let me know your lineups in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.